Hello and welcome to another episode of Blackjack Movies. I'm your host, Pat Hilke, taking you through the best damn Game of Thrones podcast on the internet. This is the Kings of Westeros, and I am here with the man, the myth, the legend, Danko Yu. What's up, Danko?
The winter has arrived, Pat. That's what's up.
It is. And if you didn't know that, after watching just the credits, you have already seen how much the White Walkers have come from Last Hearth towards Winterfell. And
I didn't notice that till you pointed it out, but you got the White Walkers arriving at Winterfell, and you got the crypts in there. I don't remember that being in the scene.
No, it was in the first one. It was in the first episode as well. The very beginning, the credits have been amazing. Mm-hmm. I love the new way that they've been doing it, and you can just tell that the reason that they're going into the crypts and they're showing you the inside of Winterfell, and this is where the battle is going to take place next episode in episode 3. But today we're going to talk about episode 2. We're going to switch it up a little bit on how we're going to do it because of this being the third episode in all 69 episodes that have come out of Game of Thrones. This is only the third time that they've spent the entire episode in one location. And
no King's Landing, nothing else.
Nothing else, just Winterfell. This is the first time since season 4 that they've done that. So it's one of those things where rather than talking about, okay,
is that the battle on the wall?
That was the wall, yeah. And so this is the first, rather than going like, okay, Jaime has his trial and blah, 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 we're going to just do like a few characters and talk about all their scenes and their plot points throughout the episode. And we'll go through there and decide, how to run the show from that. We'll just start from there. So the first person we're going to talk about is Jaime Lannister. Last episode we saw him show up and Bran gave him that look of, yeah, I've been waiting for you. And so now they start mid-trial and Dany talking about, you killed my father.
That's right. So you have Jaime in there and he's just trying to take the punishment that they're dishing out to him, and everyone's there, and everyone hates him in the room except for Tyrion. Right. I gotta say, the thing I liked the least about this, I thought this was gonna be, and Brienne, yeah, I thought this was gonna be a long trial, the way Tyrion's was, but they wrapped it up really quickly. So you have Dany being pissed, Brienne comes out, says that he's a changed man, he's an honorable man.
Sansa was pissed too at the beginning.
Sansa was pissed too. Yeah,
they were on the same, and
for once.
Yeah, that gets echoed back later on when we talk about Dany. We'll talk about the scene with her and Sansa. But for the very first time, you have Dany and Sansa, these two powerful women, on the same side, ready to just pounce on Jaime, and all of a sudden, Brienne comes out of nowhere and does exactly what we said she was going to do.
That's right. Stands up for Jaime. You know what? Says he's an honorable man and she trusts him and whatever. The interesting thing about him is she didn't mention the story of why he killed Aerys. Right. I thought there would have been like a lot of the things he can do. The only defense he had was we were at war. Right. And I would have done it all over again, right? And I mean, props to him. The only thing that Jaime ever did that is just bad is throwing Bran off the roof. You know what I mean? Everything else, like killing Aerys, saved 1 million people.
Yeah.
Attack the Starks. They were at war, kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like it's all.
But Bran tells you exactly why, and it echoes back to the very first episode.
And the thing is, Bran doesn't mention a thing during the trial, saving him, from this whole thing, So it's very, very, very interesting.
Yeah, the things we do for love is the main thing, or the main reason why, right? Is that's what he says, and that's basic. That's what Jaime said when he tossed him out the window to begin with.
That's right. He knew. But basically, in this episode, I have, in my mind, you got two characters that run the show here. You got Jaime owning half the episode, and then Dany like the bottom half of the episode.
Right.
So you got, anyways, Bran's quick testimony convinces Sansa. Yeah. Then Dany looks at Jon. Jon's like, we need every man we can get. Dany concedes. Sansa storms off. Jon storms off. Dany's left there with her deal in her hand.
Well, yeah, right. And Dany is thinking like, how come Jon is not around me.
Just icy for the first time compared to last week's episode.
And we know why.
Yep.
and we're going to get that later on in the episode. So Jaime then goes and talks to Bran.
It's just series of characters, right? So he's got the first chat with Bran, basically, asks him, apologizes, and tells him that, that's his regret. He's not that person anymore. And, Bran's he's not Bran anymore, so he doesn't really care
right?
anymore.
Bran is weird. We all know Bran is weird. But the cool thing about Bran is in this one episode, he's like, well, who would I have become if you didn't push me out the window? Who would you have become if you didn't push me out the window?
Right.
This was like the turning point. It happened in the very first episode of the very first season.
Right.
The very last scene of the first episode. And this is where Jaime's character arc turns.
Right.
So no matter what he does in, season 1 with Ned and everything else, and it all turns on, I was able to push a kid out the window for no reason, like just because he saw me boning my sister. Like,
right.
It changes his perspective on things.
And if you think about it in the long run of things, I mean, that is what starts the show, right? So maybe if you think about it, I'm curious to see the end of it. People have mentioned things about Jaime being the Promised King. What if whole show is his character arc? I don't think it is, but people have said it, because I feel like he comes out pretty lame in certain situations as being Cersei's little patsy, you know what I mean? But it is very interesting how the whole show starts off with these two characters that are having this conversation right now. And one says, I'm not the man I was before, and the other one says, well, if you didn't do that, I wouldn't be who I am now, you wouldn't be who you are, and we wouldn't be in this situation. Right. As if the whole world is on our shoulders because of what you did. Basically kind of, justifying everything.
Exactly. And then you get so now after he leaves Bran or whatever, now you get him and Tyrion, and this is the running thing throughout the rest of the episode.
Right.
He's basically with Tyrion the rest of the time. I mean, he has this interaction with Brienne,
right.
talking about I want to,
make
go. I want to battle under you.
Right. Right. That was interesting.
I want you to lead me. I can't. I got one.
Not
hand.
the fighter
I got one hand, but I'll give you that one hand.
Right.
And so that little interaction was awesome, But it's mostly about him and Tyrion and the way that both of them have,
come around.
Yeah, like
they mentioned how
the whoremongering that Tyrion would do.
They mentioned how they came around when they were at Winterfell last. He was a little whoremonger, and I was, the Golden Shield or whatever, and Golden Knight or whatever, and how they've come a long way, Jaime's just another middle-aged man, not the stud he used to be.
He was like, I was just a fool. Cersei tricked me, and Tyrion says, no, man, you knew how bad she was.
Right.
You did it because you loved her.
Right.
And it's just another thing of like what Bran says, what even Jaime said to, when he pushed Bran out the window. It's the things they do for love is going to be a running theme throughout the whole series. When you go back and you rewatch it 10 years from now, you're going to see this running theme of the things that people do for love. It's not necessarily always for family. Look at the Red Wedding.
Right.
For love.
Right.
Look at even Tyrion killing Tywin. It's for love because
and Shay
because of Shay, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Jaime and the
everything
stuff that he
Jaime
did for
does
Cersei.
for Cersei.
Yeah, always for love. John now with Dany.
Right.
It's going to be for love. John is he wants no part of the throne.
Right.
You can tell.
Right. Well, he's just preoccupied with what's happening. He's telling
Dany because he wants her to know, not because he's like, I'm going to take your throne because I'm the rightful heir. He doesn't give two shits about it.
Right.
He wants to be in love with her.
Right.
And so I think that's going to be the running theme throughout the whole series when you go back and you look at it. Not just this season. Like, go back from the very first episode, and that's the running theme. The things we do for love should be the title of the last episode.
Depends on how it ends. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Last Jaime interaction here is you have these long scenes when they're all drinking in front of the hearth, and you got Jaime, Tyrion, of course, they're coming together. You got Pod and Brienne, and then you got Tormund and Davos. You got these.
Tormund steals the scene, man.
Tormund's always the best.
They wanted everybody to feel so good for Brienne being knighted by Jaime and everything, and Pod singing, and it's a good song. And Florence and the Machine sang the song in the end credits. I don't know if
that's
you knew
cool.
That. Yeah, so
No,
they
I
sang
didn't
the
know
same
that.
song. But
Need to tell my wife.
right, but the scene is stolen by Tormund in his giant's milk.
Yeah. Oh, best story ever! Oh my god! I don't know if you heard the story, but Tormund says, "You know what's my nickname? Your name's King Killer, right?" He's like, "You know what my nickname is? Giant Spain, because when I was 10, I killed a giant, and then I slept with his wife, and she suckled me on her teat."
For 3 years. Just thought I was a baby. Just thought I was a youngin. Giant titty.
That's what got him strong. Bro.
That dude is awesome.
Yeah.
And then he just takes it to the head.
And then it's like he's like, "Is that working, Brienne?" You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
That was a story.
Yeah, he was like,
"What's up,
you big bitch?" He totally wanted it. It was awesome. No, that dude. Every time I see him, he grows a little bit more in my book of like the cast of characters of where they stand in a ranking in my head. Jon will always be number one, but like Tormund is like now,
Ned's number one, season 1, bro.
Jon is number one always, and then now Tormund is number 2. Like that dude has grown so much because he's like cocky Pat, and everybody loves a cocky Pat.
Everybody does.
So the whole gist of what we're getting at now is that this whole little round table that they had was to make Brienne the knight.
Right.
And now she has this not only title but also like this feeling of acceptance finally.
Right. And if you think of a knight, Brienne is the epitome of what a knight is and should be. She's not the brightest. But she's true to her word. She does the right thing when people are doing terrible things in the world. She's a good fighter. She tries to be a good person to Pod, her squire and whatnot. And when she gets knighted, it's like you see her smile for the first time.
Right.
And it's a little frightful, but it's you see her being. This is what she wanted in a way, even though it means whatever, nothing. The Northerners look on that, it's like, it's meaningless, right? Knighthood, whatever. But it just means for her it's acceptance, and it was a cool little scene.
And to call her a knight of the 7 kingdoms, I thought was awesome.
Right.
Like, they didn't give her a title of any house. She's not a Stark knight. She's not this. She's not that. She's not a king's knight. She is a knight of the 7 kingdoms, and I think that part was really cool.
Yeah.
As that's going on, because that scene itself took up 15 minutes.
Right. Well, and they had back and forth.
Back and forth. So during that scene, you get a scene with Jorah and Sam.
Right.
Which was a touching scene in itself. So you have Lady Mormont is like talking to Jorah, and he's like, "No, you're the last of our house. You need to go hide." And she's like, "No, I don't care that I'm 11 years old. I'm gonna be throwing bows on people." She
leads, from the front. You know what I mean?
She really does.
Yeah, and she excuses him.
Yeah.
And Sam comes by, and of course he stole Heartsbane, a Valyrian sword, from his father a season ago, and he gives it to Jorah. Because his father was his mentor. So that was a nice touching move. And, what better than in this battle to get a Valyrian sword for Jorah? Yeah. Now, Jorah's not the man he used to be, but, with this thing, he's going to take down some White Walkers.
He's going to take some people out, for sure. So that was a very touching scene. I like that scene a lot. And then you have Grey Worm and Missandei, and they were planning for the future.
Again, things you do for love. Yeah, they're planning for the future.
The things you do for love, right?
Yep. And see, in this episode, as we do our death list, Deadpool, my friend, in this episode, the people who got just a minute extra screen time
that you weren't expecting. Yeah, those guys
that
are gone.
usually don't. Those guys are gone. And I'm sorry, Grey Worm. I'm sorry, Pod.